Good evening. I'm Myra Jansen, and this is Stars of Yesteryear, where we take a look at the lives and careers of popular personalities of the past, and then see what they're doing nowadays. With me tonight is comic book reviewer and self-proclaimed Beanie Baby cult leader, Linkara. Linkara, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing very well, but I want to say that I object to being described as a popular personality of the past. I was never popular.
I want to start this interview off with your history. Let's talk about your very first year doing Atop the Fourth Wall.
A subject that I'm sure I know nothing about, but I'll go ahead.
So you started Atop the Fourth Wall in late 2008.
2009.
I could have sworn it was October 26th, 2008.
Nope, 2009. January 1st, minute 1.
Okay then. So you started doing video reviews of comic books back in 2009, beginning with a review of the Spider-Man Clone Saga.
Nah, it was Superman at Earth's End.
I'm sorry to have to correct you on this, but no. Superman at Earth's End was your 9th episode. Your first review was a continuation of the text reviews you had done previously.
Oh no, those didn't happen anymore.
Excuse me?
I've decided to reorder things a bit. It makes more sense to me to have started with Superman at Earth's End instead of a random part of the Clone Saga. I referenced that review a lot more, so it had a much larger impact on the show, and therefore, it should be first.
But that's not how it had happened.
That's how it happened now. I've been doing this for decades. Newcomers aren't necessarily going to watch and have access to a bunch of old, poorly produced, dated videos from back then, so having a more streamlined version of events makes more sense for them to get a better idea of the starting point of the show.
I don't quite understand why this is necessary.
Well, let me tell you about an example of this. Back in 2022, I did my 700th episode of Atop the Fourth Wall.
Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where it's the 700th episode! I feel like we should be saving this whole celebration for, I don't know, the 750th episode. That's a nice, sexy number. No one cares about 700. They care about being 3/4 of the way to 1,000. And yeah, I'm planning on getting there, too. 2028's gonna be wild. Oh, who the hell am I kidding? With the schedule slippages, it'll be 2030.
2031, but close at least.
Changing that, too. I always got my episodes out on time.
Of course you did. Please continue.
Still, it's a milestone to have produced so many episodes of this show, and that means it should be celebrated with something major. And when you've gone on for so long, how about a visit to something's beginnings? And you know who we haven't talked about in a while? Well, it's Miller time. Oh, Frank Miller, people have softened on you quite a bit the last few years. Not that the awful works you've done in the past are being reevaluated, just that Frank has noticeably kept his mouth shut since that 2018 interview where he said he was really sorry for making Holy Terror. Well, actually, he didn't say that, but a lot of people seem to think he did. As a reminder, he simply said that, I wouldn't erase any of my past works, but I'm not capable of that kind of book again. That's not acknowledging I was wrong to say a lot of bigoted things against Muslims. That's just, I'm older and it's harder to stay angry all the time. I want him to not be racist, homophobic, or sexist. I want everyone to not be those things. But part of the process of not being those anymore is acknowledging, wow, I did that and it was wrong. It's really not enough to just say, yeah, that was pretty bad, but whatever. If there was any remorse for his actions, then either bad journalists didn't write them down, or he refuses to say it out loud out of personal embarrassment. And frankly, I find that attitude cowardly. I've talked before about my own shames, past works of mine I'm embarrassed by, attitudes and opinions that I held that I now recognize were wrong. You go forward, you apologize, you acknowledge, and then you do better.
You can't keep doing shitty things and then feel bad about yourself like that makes it okay.
Still, the fact that we haven't had any new horribly offensive interviews floating around from him in the last few years is a good sign, at least, that he may not be as awful a person as he was. Pity he's still not that great a writer anymore. Which brings us to why we're here today. In 1987, as part of his contract for doing The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller had to do another story, a new Batman origin. Originally conceived as a graphic novel in the same vein as The Dark Knight Returns, it was decided to instead make it part of the regular Batman monthly title. Batman's monthly sales had hit an all-time low at the time, and they needed to prop them up. They even wanted to start a second volume with a new #1, but Miller was actually against this, saying, "I didn't feel that fleshing out an unknown part of Batman's history justified wiping out 50 years of adventures." A sad state of affairs when Frank Miller recognized the problem with the New 52 better than DC could 25 years before it happened. Anyway, point is that the 4-part storyline, titled Batman Year One, was a success. It helps that this was pretty soon after Crisis on Infinite Earths, so much like how John Byrne's Man of Steel miniseries had re-established Superman's origins, and Wonder Woman had been given a fresh start by Greg Potter and the late great George Perez, the story of Batman's revised early days was met with praise. While not as successful as The Dark Knight Returns had been, it did bring in really damn good numbers, and the story has served as a big inspiration for several films. And it is still a pretty damn good story. So much so that Year One stories became a more regular thing in DC, either storylines within the main book itself, or their own isolated miniseries or annual issues. And so apparently Dan DiDio called up Frank Miller and asked him if there was anything he wanted to work on, and this is what he requested. Frank also said in an interview that this is the story he's wanted to write since he was a little boy, and while it's certainly possible that that's true, I find that claim rather dubious, given that he never tried to push for this during his heyday with DC when he was at his most popular and respected. Then again, maybe he did try to push for it over the years, but he kept being told, "No, we've already got people doing a retelling of Superman's origin going on." Because retelling Superman's origin to the point where it became the quasi-new canon origin, yeah, that's been done many times over the last 30 years. I already mentioned the original John Byrne Man of Steel miniseries, but there was also Superman Birthright, Superman for All Seasons, Superman's Secret Origin, various short recaps of it, retelling the origins for the New 52 and DC Rebirth. So yeah, maybe he wanted to do it over the years, but they didn't want two of them happening at the same time, and everybody wants to do Superman's Year One, each giving their own different spin on their original story.
Okay, I understand the desire to do a different sort of spin on your story, but this isn't fiction we're talking about. It's your own life story.
Everyone's life story is a fiction. We cherry-pick the memories, most pleasant or most unpleasant, and forget all the mundane details that happened in between. We imagine ourselves as the hero most of the time and get frustrated when others don't see us in that light.
But there are still facts, things that did indeed happen, like when your first episode came out.
But that's not actually important. That's just trivia. It's more important to get the overall flavor of the story down. And that brings us back to my 700th episode.
It's also weird to imagine Frank Miller wanting to tell a Superman origin story because, well, frankly, his work hasn't exactly been positive when it comes to the Man of Tomorrow. Like, the most positive you could probably point to is The Dark Knight Returns, where Superman is a stooge of the government because he honestly thought it was the best way to save lives and is legitimately trying to do the right thing. But that story also implies he's done horrible things and that he's weak and stupid for doing so and should follow Batman's more fascistic tendencies. And also that he cut off Green Arrow's arm when he refused to cooperate with the government. And then in Aspar, he's a humorless, joyless asshole who shouts "damn" a lot and is terrified of the government already and is organizing the League in secret and talking about how much they hate Batman, but has to do what he says and then makes out with Wonder Woman out of nowhere. Another interview pointed out this contradiction, especially since this is still supposed to take place in the same continuity as Frank Miller's other DC stories, and Frank explained that that's because in those stories, it's Batman's book, meaning Batman is the point of view character and hero, so of course Superman would be seen in a negative light. But then how can this be the same universe if the characterization and details are dependent upon who the main character is? We can't trust the narrative in any of these books then! Because then that suggests the weird contradictions and baffling behavior of Crazy Steve and Aspar is the result of someone else being the main character, which I'm inclined to believe is Dick Grayson age 12. Except if that's the case, if we're seeing everything through his filtered vision, that doesn't explain Black Canary, Alfred, Gordon, and a bunch of other stuff. I must defer to abridged Vegeta for this.
How did you know about the parts you weren't there for?
And yeah, the Superman in this story is a very different character than the one in Aspar and the Dark Knight Returns books. But I suppose we should actually just talk about the book itself and you can see. Let's dig into Superman Year 1.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he is a man, punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun, where'd he purchase that? Linkara, cows, muscles, some trophy deconstructs. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara sits down nonetheless and forces himself through it. A poorly written, ugly mess, but someone's gotta do it. It may look like this time he's screwed, and you might just find him in a fiery mood. And if it may seem just a bit extreme, that's fine in the eyes of the 90s dude. Setting ablaze crossovers, one-shots and tie-ins. Linkara stands in reality defiance atop the fourth wall, looking down on us all. Of course, don't you know anything about science? There would be better books on his show, but Casada sold them to Mephisto, and now there's nothing left to do but share the scrapings at the bottom of the barrel with you. Linkara, he is a man, punch, sporadically a grouch. Linkara, he has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. Linkara, ghosts, gods, a universe in flux. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
And then, after the title card, it cuts to the cover of the first issue.
Why did you make me just sit through you describing the entire theme song?
Well, you get paid hourly, don't you?
Continue.
I do not have a physical copy of the book. For a 100th episode, you'd think that'd be important, but honestly, after Holy Terror, I really have zero desire to have any new Frank Miller book in my possession. I think a fan might have sent one to me at some point, but I have no idea what happened to it. Perhaps I had a blackout upon remembering anything that happened in Marville and destroyed it in a fit of rage and confusion. But hey, 700th episode, and it's only 3 comics, so we can talk about the covers. Starting with... well, whatever the hell John Romita Jr. decided to do to Clark's body here.
Johnny Long Torso, Johnny Long Torso.
It's like he's a Stretch Armstrong toy that's been pulled a little too often. His arms are so long, and yet his legs are like frickin' pipe cleaners compared to the rest of him. This, my friends, is why you don't skip leg day. Also, I have no idea where the hell he is. There's some black substance all around him. Maybe it's dirt. Maybe it's coal? Is it goo?
What was that black goo?
I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be the ship he came to Earth in, but he did that as a baby. In this version, does he emerge fully grown? Although I can't really tell if he's fully grown or not. This could be a teenager for all we know. With the proportions all over the place, maybe this is him as a baby. We open on Krypton in its final moments. The air seems to boil. Lightning flashes. Thunder roars. A planet-wide storm. There is no rain, no relief. Weather forecasters all across the planet say in unison, oops. The crust roars and wrenches. Oh yeah, I remember the last time I overcooked a pizza. Everything falls and clatters and breaks. All cats on Krypton are making a statement. Everything screams. That shoelace over there? It's screaming. And soon things go to hell. Pipelines explode. Crystalline towers built to last for eons shatter like porcelain. Lawsuits are filed for false advertising. It is the end for everything, for everyone. It is the death of the planet Krypton. Somehow the life insurance on it still ends up being collected. The narration is from Baby Clark, sort of? Like, he just said this is the death of Krypton, and it's the end, but then it's like he's viewing it from a place of innocence, thinking the noise is just a celebration. Just look at Mom and Dad. They're running. They're jumping. They're dancing. No. That's not how you dance when the world is ending. Fortunately, to demonstrate that properly, we have the ninja-style dancer. They wrap up baby Kal-El, and we see that Jor-El is suffering from jaundice. Plus, they're just so bug-eyed anyway.
It's time to face your maker on The Muppet Show tonight.
But yeah, Miller's standard prose style of sentence fragments and single words works absolutely fine when it's a baby that doesn't understand what's going on. Mind you, it's stretching believability a bit then that the baby understands the concept of a laboratory, a rocket, and, oh yeah, the entire city exploding, describing elements like pipelines exploding, and towers meant to stand for eons shattering like porcelain. But whatever, baby Kal-El is put in the escape rocket by his tearful, bug-eyed parents, and he's launched through space. Soon arriving on Earth, and then it explodes too. Man, the S doesn't mean hope in this version, it means worst luck. Okay, yeah, it didn't actually explode, but sometimes the artistic license can be a bit extreme, especially when we just saw a planet explode. I'm sure it's meant to be, like, the light of the sun or the atmosphere burning around the ship. In any case, the ship crashes and we've got a little formatting issue. Back in the Holy Terror review, I talked about how it was sometimes difficult to tell who was narrating because all the narration boxes were the same color and format. Well, we've got a similar thing here. Jor-El's computer voice talks to Kal-El, but the only difference between the two characters' boxes is that Jor-El's narration captions have rounded corners. If you're just glancing through it, you probably wouldn't notice. Why not make the edges zigzags or something to indicate it's coming through a speaker or whatever? But yeah, not as bad as Holy Terror, but kind of annoying. Wake up, my son. Wake up! You have much to do. You've got a busy day of pooping, and then sleeping, and then giggling at random things. A world awaits. A living world. A world of terrors and wonders. A world that needs you. A world you must save. No pressure or anything. Wake up! Grab a brush and put a little makeup. Hide the scars to fade away the shake-up. This is personal preference speaking, but I've never been fond of any Superman origin where Jor-El knows what'll happen to Kal on Earth in terms of his powers or places expectations of helping people. Yeah, there are good stories that use it, it's not a deal breaker or anything, but I've always preferred that be Clark's choice that he makes as he grows up. Not some destiny crap thrust upon him. Also, does Kal even understand what the hell's being said to him? Anyway, the ship opens, revealing Jonathan Kent. Rush of 1,000 gorgeous angelic alien scents. And then he smells grape jelly and mustard, and Kal-El decides to destroy the Earth. A million buzzes and squeals and chatters and chirps from a universe of life. Mostly bugs, though, based on that description. I guess Kal-El isn't really a baby, or at least he's old enough to stand up out of the pod and creepily look at the reader instead of the guy standing over him. The Kansas wind sweeps across the wheat field like the cleansing hand of God. I think that lyric got cut from Oklahoma. Also, good job cleaning, what with the continuous billowing brown smoke surrounding everything from every angle. Seriously, smoke behind Jonathan, smoke behind Kal, smoke to the side, smoke on the water. It's like they're in the eye of a tornado. What the hell is the narration saying? His journey has ended. His adventure begins. God damn it, that's a good line. Jonathan picks him up and we get some inconsistencies. It's the same kind of issue I had with Man of Steel. The story can't decide when a Kryptonian's powers manifest, so they just kind of come in all over the place with no rhyme or reason. Hence the narration says that picking up Kal-El is like hefting an engine block. What the heck is this kid made of? So, like, he's heavy? Or he's just incredibly strong-skinned? But how hard would he have to be squeezing him to know that? And then there's this bit. John Kent feels something probe inside his skull. A gentle warmth makes him feel like his brain is floating. The boy coos, pleased. This is not a hostile. Let him take you to your new home. Let him think this is all his idea. Is Cal using mind control on him?
Mind control?
Oh yeah, they don't really follow up on that in the comic after that. But it gave me another idea for a revision to my history.
How do you mean?
Well, there was a point where I was turning evil and going down a dark path, but a lot of my viewers felt it was too subtle or not that apparent. As such, I'm making it my new canon that I'm actually using mind control on my viewers to make them watch me.
Okay, not only is that wrong, but it feels like the kind of thing that requires a lot more work to get people back on your side.
Nah, it's cool. People will forgive me. They love me.
Yeah, because you're mind controlling them to love you. And also, if you could do that, why wouldn't you have mind controlled more people to watch you? Your viewership wasn't exactly huge during that time.
Well, I'll workshop it.
Also, again, the shifting narration. We're back to regular rectangle corners, but now it's a third-person narration instead of from Cal? Why is it so hard for Frank to just stick to one perspective? Father once did a demonstration of how this antique kind of engine works. It burns dead monsters. So, Jor-El decided to teach his infant son the basics. Reading, writing, and how combustion engines, long outdated technology on Krypton, works. It's like trying to teach your 3-year-old about linotype machines. Jonathan brings Cal to Martha. Hi, I found me something. It came out of a rocket what dropped straight out of the sky. We're eating good tonight, Martha.
Those eyes of his, it's like they've seen worlds upon worlds, wonders beyond all reckoning. We'll make a fortune selling them. Jonathan, wherever could this boy have come from?
Maybe that just don't matter, my love. Maybe all that counts is where he's headed. And yet so many seem to care more about where he came from. Go figure. And thus we see little Clark Kent growing up, and we get a lot of cute moments. The kid learning to ride on Jonathan's shoulders without hurting him, lifting heavy groceries, him jumping through a wheat field up and down, Martha worried he'll never come back down to Earth to them, only to find Clark at her feet. It's good stuff. Yeah, confession time. The first half of Superman Year 1 is actually pretty decent. Oh, it's got plenty of stupid, both in art and writing, and we'll be pointing it out, but you would expect Frank Miller to write Superman with a lot more of a cynical bent. And he doesn't. Legitimately, a lot of the stuff we see in the first half of the story is good, wholesome, well-written Superman stuff without a hint of making him a fascist or an obedient slave of the government or any kind of cynical deconstruction of the concept. Sure, the shifting viewpoint in the narration, some of the wonky artwork, and some goofy dialogue is all present, but it's not a miserable slog. It's honestly the best Frank Miller has written in, well, over 10 years in my opinion, maybe 2 decades. But, like I said, the first half of it is good, and then a switch is gonna get flipped. And yeah, it's not all good. I don't know if John Romita Jr. has ever seen a child, but, yeah, he seems to really struggle with children, as we see with bobblehead baby Clark here.
Why is his head so big? Why is his head so big?
Martha is trying to feed Clark, and I think there was a disconnect between artist and writer here. She says she's feeding him oatmeal, but the 2 panels above look much more like broccoli. Now, green oatmeal is a thing, I looked it up, and it's not necessarily bad, especially if it's just a matter of mixing certain fruits and vegetables in, but Yeah, I'm pretty sure they weren't communicating effectively here. Also, yet again, the powers wonkiness, as the Brock oatmeal is too hot for Clark, and he accidentally uses his heat vision in response. I mean, I suppose having super strength doesn't necessarily mean you're immune to hot and cold, but it seems like if you have heat vision and can leap tall buildings and are like an engine block, then maybe a little hot food shouldn't really affect you all that much. Funko Pop-headed Clark dreams of flying and ends up accidentally flying out into the country before waking up. His other powers also inconsistently emerge. Still, eventually he grows into a teenager with much better body proportions, learning how to control his strength so he doesn't send a baseball he's tossing around with his dad straight through the guy. Yet he can still lift a truck to retrieve the baseball when it rolls under it. And then he attends his first day of high school. You watch your step, Clark. If you go and start thinking you're better than everybody else, well, there's nothing good can come of that. Especially because, well, not to put too fine a point on it, Clark, but you ever hear the expression pencil neck? I'm not better than anybody. I know that. I'm just better at doing stuff. I really want to go over there and be better, but over there has to take care of its own problems, right, Dad? Or like your head's getting so big, it'll just explode, right, boy? Oh god, even the comic is aware of how comically huge his head is. In class, the kids, who all look pretty young for high schoolers, frankly, maybe another disconnect between artist and writer, and Ramita thought he meant junior high school, is learning about space, I guess, but the teacher starts her lecture off talking about proto-humans? Whatever, point is, everyone puts on space helmets because this is a small town in Kansas, and they probably can't afford a mini planetarium or something. Also, the teacher is weird because she keeps referring to the kids as dumplings, my blossoms, etc. One of the kids is overweight and the helmet doesn't fit him, so Clark takes it off, rips the back open a bit, and manages to get it back on him, much to the shock of the other kids. However, at lunch it's revealed the helmets are made of styrofoam, so it can't be that much of a shock that he was able to do it. Clark enjoys hearing all the gossip around him for this, but then he hears something else. Then he hears a name. Her name. Wait, why are those kids talking about Billie Eilish years before they were even born? No, he overhears Lana Lang mention how there's nothing going on between her and Clark. In the afternoon break, did Frank Miller not know the word recess? Clark is hanging out with a bunch of other kids who are considered social rejects and encouraging them to respond to bullying with snark and jokes. Never forget, you're a heck of a lot smarter than the whole pack of them. Mess with their heads. Tell them to solve pi to the last digit and watch their heads explode. The overweight kid from earlier says they'll just bust their heads open in response. Not if your jokes are good enough to get the whole crowd laughing. Do what that Linkara guy does and say boner a lot. It works for him. A goth kid says that it's easy for Clark to say that because nothing seems to actually hurt him, demonstrating by frickin' stabbing a pen into his hand, which of course doesn't penetrate and just cracks in the kid's hand. This confuses me for a few reasons. One, as someone who used to write reminders in pen on my hand in middle and high school, your average pen isn't going to do a lot of damage even if it did penetrate. I would just assume the goth kid was holding it too hard and cracked it in the middle because they're all as fragile as toothpicks. 2, why the hell was stabbing Clark your first go-to anyway? 3, why do the kids all seem shocked and horrified by this if they know that nothing seems to be able to hurt him? And again, unless this was some fancy metal-coated pen, you could snap one of those pretty easily. But whatever, the kids just shrug it off, especially as on another day, we learn that Clark has been quietly dealing with the bullies, humiliating them without realizing he was doing it. Pete Ross gets bullied next, his back door flooded, and 2 days of schoolwork ruined. Clark wants Pete to tell the principal about this, but Pete says they just make him a snitch, and the principal would just laugh at him too. Really depressing that that's one of the most realistic parts of a Superman story, that school authorities will do nothing to stop bullies, and in fact punish the victim more. This is madness. Madness. Yeah, Frank, you're right. I probably should review 300 at some point. Is Sparta an old enough meme now that it's a nostalgic callback? Still gonna use the robot chicken clip if I need to.
This isn't funny!
Clark asks his parents what he should do about the bullies. Martha doesn't want any violence whatsoever. Either he'd get hurt or he'd hurt someone else. Jonathan's a little more open, saying talk to them first, then kick their asses, but ultimately sides with what his mother says. Then he tells his son to just let bullying happen, and also if kids get hurt, he should let them get hurt because it's more important to preserve his secret. But in the future, he can probably figure it all out for himself in a vague, abstract sense that isn't actually helpful. Oh, and then his ghost will show up at some point and tell Clark that helping people will actually make things worse. 3 of Clark's friends get egged by some bullies in a truck, and one of the narration boxes says they're 10 years old. Yeah, this ain't a disconnect between artist and writer. Frank apparently thinks 10-year-olds go to high school. For the non-Americans in the audience, particularly the British, high school age is around 14 to 18. Elementary school, basically the first major schooling, ends around age 10. Maybe these kids are supposed to be first-year middle school / junior high kids and are gonna turn 11 soon, but still. And the bullies are off and away for another day's cruel fun, and the teachers are scared of them, and the parents are scared of them. Why are the teachers and parents afraid of them? Adults not intervening is because the adults are assholes who think kids should be bullied for various reasons, or they just don't want anyone to cause a fuss, or they think it's exaggeration on the victim's part. Why are they afraid of a bunch of jackass kids throwing eggs? When Clark is told about this, he goes to confront the bullies and insists they stop. They decide to start a fight with him. His father's voice whispers, the voice from the rocket. My son, I think I accidentally left my wallet in the rocket. Could you send it back? The voice from his time as an infant apparently is still in his mind, as it says to remember that humans are fragile and he has to show restraint, especially don't get angry. So yeah, Clark is able to just lightly shove the bullies aside, one apparently breaking his hand just by Clark blocking his attack. At the principal's office later, both kids' parents are called in. Martha is reading Clark the Riot Act, while Jonathan, well... The vice principal actually is more fair than you think, giving the lead bully, Markham, 10 days suspension given his past actions, but Clark is given 10 days of sanitation cleaning for practicing martial arts on the other students. Later, Clark has the discussion with the parents about fighting back. But is it bullying to fight back? Somebody's gotta take on the bad guys.
Oh, nobody's really bad, darling. Some people just get confused.
Yes, they are, Martha. There are legitimately bad people. They are awful, and the only confusion should come from why it took so long to punch them. Boner! I'm hilarious! Later, Jonathan goes up to Clark and tells him that his mom is wrong about this, that nobody's always right about everything. He says that sometimes you do have to take the high road and maybe get taken advantage of every now and then, but you shouldn't be a doormat either. No, you're something this old world's never seen before. And you're gonna change it, just by being there. So change it for the better. Clark would go on to endorse a toothpaste phone app that told you when to brush. Clark goes to an abandoned farm to contemplate his father's words. Also, get a load of the silo he's sitting on.
Sure, it's phallic. Why wouldn't it be?
When Clark returns, he's popular among the student body, though while his friends are pretty happy with what he did, they still had to endure the bullying. As Clark realizes, these kids just can't be scared off of bullying. In fact, the bullies have escalated, attacking other kids in front of teachers and graffitiing a bus. His other friends get beat up as well, being told that it's dangerous to be Clark's friend. His mind races! It's just like Pa said, don't go showing off. Liable to get somebody hurt. Liable to get somebody killed. There's got to be another way. A better way. Bacon eating contest. Lana tells Clark that she's got photos of Markham's gang doing this stuff, and she wants to show them to Clark, and in turn go to the police, who are most certainly not scared of a bunch of kids. They agree to meet at her place at 8 o'clock, though it seems the goth kid from earlier has decided to be a snitch for Markham. Before he can get there, they trick Lana to come down and snatch the photos from her, before implying they're going to do bad things to her. But fortunately, Clark arrives. Following his father's advice, he doesn't show off, he just shoves them around. Just enough to injure them, not even break any bones. And while the bullies contemplate what just happened, Clark takes Lana back to her house by flying. The moon kisses his face. The wind fills his lungs. Earth drops away with an angel in his arms. Clark, what the hell? Again, legitimately a well-written, actually funny moment here. Don't know when he figured out he could fly, but whatever. Also, weren't they just next to her house? Why does this imply they were really far away and he needed to fly her back?
Space is warped and time is bendable.
Clark says he figures he could always fly, but just didn't know until now. He also tells Lana that she's got to keep digging up the truth in order to get justice.
Like a reporter would.
Or a really obsessed blogger with a bunch of unhinged conspiracy theories, but who can say? She encourages him to hide the flying for now, or else people will really start talking, but he says he's gonna start courting her so he won't keep secrets anymore. He specifically says court her, and I just realized that Jonathan seems to be putting on a bit of a southern affectation. I thought Frank was confused because Kansas is actually part of the Midwest and not the South, but then I was curious and looked this up. People from Kansas, feel free to tell me I'm full of it, but I'm going by Google searches here. And apparently, yeah, Kansas does have a sizable population that has a bit of a southern accent. To be accurate, it's more of a twang in the voice, apparently. I only really bring this up because it makes me wonder, why has there never been a Superman adaptation to try to bring that aspect in? Anyway, the two meet again in the school library.
Boning up there, Mr. Kent?
Damn if Lana just doesn't have a way of saying things. See, me saying boner several times in this episode isn't just me being endlessly humorous, but also prophetic. But yeah, he tells her everything, and they learn he can retain information he speed reads. He reveals his plan to travel the Earth to learn about it, advice given from his dad, and the two grow increasingly closer as a couple. After getting a kiss goodnight from her, he heads over to a spot where the Markham gang used to bully kids. And for a minute, he pretends the spot is his own hiding place, his little fortress of solitude. And then he takes himself a pee. Superman! Likes to pee in bushes where he was bullied. Thank you for that information, Frank, and for reminding us you're the one writing this. After that, he starts learning to fly better, with some honestly decent poetic descriptions of it, and we get a proper time jump into the end of high school. Clark successfully wins a football game for the team and then tells his dad he intends to follow his advice and travel the world once he's out of school. He plans to head to the ocean first, since the Earth is mostly water anyway, and that's where most life is. He admits that the way he's doing that is by enlisting in the Navy. This was a very controversial creative decision when the book came out, and I admit I too was very skeptical of it. Frank Miller had defended it by saying, well, it's a common, realistic thing for kids in small farm towns to do. And I'm here just like, if you want common and realistic, why are you writing Superman? We'll be getting into it in more detail soon enough, but honest to God, it's actually not bad at all. Yeah, I'm as surprised as all of you that Frank didn't make it some pro-patriotic, grr terrorism, Clark learns to kill and be aggressive and etc. kind of thing. But nope. And I dig the reasoning behind it. He doesn't want to join up to fight or kill anyone, he wants to see the world, and actually going places with the Navy isn't that absurd a premise for that.
It must have been shocking to give so much praise to then modern Frank Miller, given your continual frustrations with his work.
Yeah, but it also reminded me that sometimes retcons can really make sense. It all depends on how they're handled.
Okay, maybe we should change the topic of discussion about your past. What about your first decade, the time you were with the aggregate site Channel Awesome?
Retroware.
Really?
Yeah, I was part of the retro wave for my first 10 years.
They did video game stuff.
Just like me during 2014 and 2015.
Okay, I know that one didn't happen. But it is consistent with you occasionally shifting your entire focus. Like when you spent a couple years doing only horror stuff.
Okay, that wasn't me. That was Clive Sinclair and Moarte conspiring to shift the channel's focus.
And then there was that one time you tried to become a VTuber.
Yeah, that one I'll admit to. But that was just because I was trying to get into Takahata 101's bar. He was a bit unwelcoming when I tried to go in otherwise.
Ma'am, I told you to stop letting flesh tubers in. The bar can't handle three-dimensional objects, and or beings, and or people.
The point is, that's a retcon about your life that's blatantly unnecessary and wrong.
Look, you just don't get how these sorts of things can still serve a beneficial role in bringing a new angle to the character. Let me continue.
As if I have a choice.
Clark's parents are naturally sad about this, especially since they had been saving up for him to go to college, but he says they'll need the money for themselves. He doesn't say why, but it's pretty evident that it's because they're getting older and won't be able to do as much stuff on the farm. His mother is worried that they'll reprogram him into a war machine, again the same thing the audience was worried about, but that's not actually what happens. Clark and Lana have sex off-panel as he prepares to leave for basic training. It's kind of sweet, actually. And hey, once again, it all comes back around to boners.
I guess you're off to storm the barricades now, soldier boy. Don't you go forgetting the small-town girl you left behind.
I won't be gone forever, Lana. And how on earth could I ever forget you? Lana Lang is not seen again for the rest of this miniseries. I think he mentions her once or twice, but otherwise she is gone from this story. As we'll see, that's apparently a recurring motif. His parents say farewell to him, Martha even stuffing in the Superman suit for him into his bag as a farewell present, figuring he'll need some sturdier clothing. Especially considering her sewing machine broke twice trying to make it using the sheets from his pod. He even discovers his telescopic vision by spotting Lana in the distance with a farewell note for him. It's sweet stuff right before we move into his bus ride as he has dreams of Krypton's destruction, before finally arriving in Illinois to begin training. And he opens his window to hang out of the bus and give this excited little look to end issue 1. Except earlier his narration had pointed out that the windows on the bus don't open, so I guess Clark punched it out to make that happen.
Great continuity!
Issue 2's cover is okay. I don't really like the shadows making the Superman outfit black, but I get it. Otherwise, it's Clark underwater shooting his heat vision into the maw of a monster he's just inside the jaw of. It's fine, really matches up with the line that DC put this in, the Black Label. We'll talk about the Black Label another time, but more or less, here's where we put everything that used to be in Vertigo, and also anytime we want to show Batman's penis. Again, more boners. Anyway, we begin with a montage of Clark and other recruits going through some basic Navy stuff, including having his head shaved. Tough hair you got there, pal. 3 blades already. Come straight out of your pay. This is also the second Superman origin story I've read featuring the difficulty of cutting Clark's hair. I know it's just a joke, but all I can think of is going back to Superman 4 with the single thread of hair holding up 1,000 pounds that Lex Luthor steals to make Nuclear Man. As we continue the training montage, Clark has to resist the urge to show off because, of course, everything he does comes so easily. The running, the exercise. He has admiration for the other recruits who don't have it as easy as him. When he has to train with guns, he scores perfectly because the pistol is actually less of a problem for him than his dad's antique rifle. The higher-ups peg him as a sniper, and I'm kind of confused now. For some reason, Clark is colored to have darker skin while he's there. I'd assume it's because it's supposed to show he's outside all the time, but it's Superman. His body is a huge solar battery. I didn't think Superman could get tanned, yet he's portrayed as having darker skin than one of his superior officers. And if being outside a lot was the cause, why wasn't he drawn with this skin tone in the first issue when he's doing farm work all the time? In any case, his performance has him sent to train for Navy SEALs instead in California. I don't know how that works for just recruits, but there you go. And he seems to have a particular affinity for the sea, which he says is calling to him. And the sea, her smell, her taste. Tastes like dehydration. She calls to him. She strengthens him. She begs for him. She wants the money he owes her. The sea continues to call to him until one night he watches it in the distance and can see mermaids frolicking in the waters. His superior confirms this to him. Watching the girls, boy? Can't say I blame you. They're worth the watching, they surely are. Especially when they lure them out and rip them to shreds with razor-sharp teeth. Now that's entertainment. This old world's full of wonders, son. For example, digital watches. I don't see it getting any better than that. However, he warns Clark that other men have gone a little sea-crazy and tried to go out there, forgetting their girl back home, and that resulted in them trying to swim out to the mermaids and never coming back. But you never heard nothing about no mermaids. Not from me. Now did you, boy? Now did you, boy? Sir, no, sir. Nothing about no mermaids, sir. Good. Now hippogriffs, on the other hand. During shore leave off the base, Clark talks with a local girl interviewing him, hoping to turn said interviews with the recruits into something printable. But then she gets hit on by a guy who won't leave her alone. Clark intervenes. Maybe drop my beer. Kill you. Kill you bad! Okay, 1, no he didn't. Look at that panel and show me how the beer dropped when it's just levitating at the same level as your hand. 2, why do villains in Frank Miller stories, when talking directly to the hero, frequently devolve into caveman speak? Like in school, Clark just blocks the guy's punch and it breaks his hand, leading to a brawl that he doesn't actually participate in, just walking the girl home. And also like in school, he's punished at the base by cleaning the bathrooms. One long set of chores. Beats anything he remembers from back in Kansas. Do you not remember doing this exact same thing in the first issue? Actually, that does kind of make sense. It feels like each issue is kind of independent from the others for the most part. Oh sure, they'll lead from one issue to the next in the beginning and endings, but they otherwise feel like the narrative just resets. We've forgotten Lana. He doesn't even mention writing letters to her or anything, and the whole don't go showing off thing is quickly forgotten after the initial few pages, as he just clearly doesn't even try to pretend anything in the training is affecting him. But whatever, that night he sneaks out to the water. The angels are calling to him. The sea nymphs are calling. Unfortunately, it would turn out they were really sea monkeys. But their song, why is it so sad? That's because they're singing Ben Folds 5's Brick, Clark. It's not a happy song. Adapt. You don't need the air. Let it out. Now breathe the water. It's easy. It's easy.
Of course! Don't you know anything about science?
Yeah, idiots. It's easy to breathe underwater. Just do it. The thing about Superman being able to travel underwater or in space without protection is more that his body just retains oxygen and other stuff better. It is so weird that Frank put this in. But anyway, Clark is so impressed by everything underwater until he finally encounters a mermaid, who seems to be able to communicate with him telepathically. The angel's name is Lori, and she's teasing him, asking him why he brought his watch underwater with him. Also, she thinks his haircut is stupid. Lori Lamaris is a Silver Age character, a romantic interest of Superman's that popped up far more times than you would think, given she's just a mermaid. I personally do not understand her popularity among a lot of writers that they keep bringing her back, but her inclusion here does make sense a bit, given her repeated appearances in the Silver Age and the Navy idea that Miller put in. The problem, however, is that this stuff quickly becomes the focus of the issue, but we'll get back to that. Following Lori, he discovers Atlantis, which I guess is just a few miles off the coast of California, go figure. And that Atlantis has suffered a disaster as some kind of high-tech experimental surveillance sub has crashed into it. Also, I think we get a title for this issue right here in this 2-page spread. Atlantis, Paradise Demolished. I say I think we get that title because why the hell is that text there otherwise? Though what's weirder still is that the first issue didn't have a title for it like this, unless you count Supper at the Kents 40 pages in. This is also a quarter of the way through the issue, 15 pages in, so I really don't know what to make of this if that is supposed to be an issue title. I should also note that these are non-traditional mermaids. Despite some panels suggesting otherwise, they very clearly have legs, possibly so we can get mermaid butts. I cannot tell if these are clothes or scales on Lori. Lori's mind is barking out orders left and right. She's been at this for hours. No she wasn't. We just saw her a minute ago playing with other mermaids and teasing Clark to follow and catch her. Unless Clark has just been floating there watching her for hours. Clark decides to pitch in and help, leading to the narration captions to yet again shift focus, though at least they change color to a kind of brownish orange. It was our darkest hour. All hope was lost. And lo! A beacon of light shone through. It was a surface man. A Superman. Wait, no, that's what we'll call him! Surface Man! Words. The hero's voice spoke to us. To our minds. Okay, so we're adding telepathy to Superman's powers now? Or is this just an ability unique to Surface Man? After a while of successfully helping Atlantis recover, Clark checks his watch and realizes he needs to get back, but Lori wants him to stay. Stay with me, called Lori. Sleep with me. Make me your queen. And there's our Frank Miller grossness. We haven't seen that for a while. She sees Superman being strong, and that means she has to bang him. I should also note that aside from Martha Kent, who is portrayed as being overprotective and given the wrong advice, the only proper female characters we've seen in the story are romantic interests to Clark. Oh sure, the vice principal and maybe that one weird teacher who kept giving pet nicknames to the kids were there in the first issue, but they're hardly characters, are they? And there are no women in the Navy training base either. There was that one lady Clark was talking to, but the guy hitting on her really wanted to bang her. It all comes back to sex with Frankie. Women are there to be sexy, to bang the big strong guys, to be victims, but in the end, sex is what really matters. And I know, people can point to Elektra, mention Carrie Kelly, they can point to the Martha Washington series, but let's be real here, those are exceptions more than anything else. The fact that I can notice this happening so much in Frank Miller penned stories means something's up, right? I mean, you look back at All-Star Batman and Robin, Vicky Vale, introduced in her underwear talking about wanting to screw Bruce Wayne. Black Canary, inspired by Batman, shows up to make out with him. Wonder Woman, aggressive and unreasonable until she makes out with big strong Superman. Batgirl, teenager, not sexualized herself, but sexualized insults get flung her way, some of them poorly censored at that. Catwoman, victim, and they mentioned that the two had slept together. The only thing I'll grant Lori Lamaris is that she's taking charge and helping her people before she notices Clark's muscles, but she's only here to be a romantic prize for Clark in this issue. Even in a story that was mostly doing fine up until this point, Frank Miller has to make it gross somehow with the fish lady who wants sex. Explicitly so. Oh, and Clark reciprocates this desire. Screw you, Lana!
I feel like we're moving away from the actual point of anything.
Well, I go on tangents sometimes. They ultimately serve to make larger points.
And yet it's the tangents and rants that have gotten people annoyed at you sometimes.
No, they haven't.
Here we go.
Everyone has always loved my show. I've never had anyone who hated it or expressed any discontent with it whatsoever.
Really? Come on now. Even if Atop the Fourth Wall was the most beloved internet series that was ever produced...
Which it is.
No, it isn't. That would be Dominic Noble's 30-part Sandman retrospective.
Mine was better.
Hush.
Also a good episode.
No. Point is that even if your show was the most loved out there, there'd still be people who hated it and had criticisms of it.
In the thousands of episodes I produced of Atop the Fourth Wall, every music review I ever did...
Oh, so now you're a music reviewer?
Yes, nobody cares about comic books. So now I reviewed pop music.
You have just spent the last hour talking about your 700th episode wherein you reviewed a comic book.
Yeah, you're right. I should go back to telling you about that.
Clark promises to return, Lori swearing that the two of them together shall unite the 7 tribes of the 7 seas. Ah, so this is actually a political marriage. Got it. Yet again, we shift narrative, at least this time changing the font. This time it's from the Navy captain who has been training Clark, spotting him sneaking back into the barracks without anyone else noticing he was gone. He's convinced that despite Clark going to hang out with mermaids, that he'll still be a good soldier for them. And of course, Clark proves that wrong later when they're doing some one-on-one combat between him and another soldier. Clark easily takes the guy down without hurting him, and the captain barks out about finishing moves. From this here position, you can pound his face to burger meat! Or you can rip his throat out with your teeth. Either way, lunch is up. What's it gonna be, soldier? I think I'll ask him how his mom is doing, sir. Okay, I know that's supposed to be Clark being wholesome and friendly, but you can also read that as him saying, I banged his mom. During a fight with pugil sticks, Clark admits to himself that he wants this. He wants to be a Navy SEAL and enjoy the action, danger, and fun. However, when the captain yet again encourages him about killing, Clark starts feeling weird about being into all this. His stomach finally turns on the entire idea when they move on to wooden knives, and he sees how many ways he could kill a man, and the captain's encouragement to kill is just not good to him. That night, despite them still being trainees, suddenly he and a bunch of others are woken up and informed of an oil tanker that's been hijacked by pirates. They're the only ones near enough to do something about it, which seems unlikely given it's the friggin' United States Navy and this is California, but whatever, they're being sent in to rescue the boat. They successfully sneak on board and find a lot of dead bodies and eventually reach some pirates having a smoke break. And here's where I really have to start tilting my head. Now, Now, it is entirely possible I'm wrong about this. I tried to research this to see if this was a frequent thing to happen, but I think this is just a bit of Frank's bigotry rearing its very ugly head again, because he seems to have made the pirates Muslims. They're all wearing the same kind of headscarf that all of Al-Qaeda, save for the foreign exchange student and the weirdo elf bead man, were wearing in Holy Terror. I wondered if he was trying to go for Somali pirates with this, but the location is all wrong. I could not find any major Somali pirate attacks near California. And even then, popular images of Somali pirates don't have them wearing headscarves while engaging in piracy. I mean, why would they be wearing them in the middle of the night near California while trying to steal the boat anyway? Now, I could be talking out of my ass here. I missed something while trying to do research. None of the pirates scream anything stereotypical that he put into Holy Terror. But that means nothing. This did have an editor on it and featured Superman. There were higher-ups who could and would put the kibosh on anything more extreme. It's possible that it was much worse originally written and then got changed, or Frank thought it was okay since he wasn't specifically making them do the horrible stuff from Holy Terror. I just don't know for certain. I'm speculating here, and I could be full of it. But otherwise, why draw them like that? Whatever, let's move on to the point. The group storms the bridge, the other soldiers shooting most of the pirates dead, but Clark specifically does not, saying he's disgusted by the idea of killing, especially when the others make it seem so easy. Instead, he just puts his gun up to one guy's head, allowing another pirate to grab a grenade and pull the pin. Captain What's-His-Name? Yeah, I don't care about his real name. He disappears after this issue before it's even over. Orders the group to hit the deck, but Clark instead goes in and grabs the grenade, clutching it in his hands and forcing the pirate to look at it. Let him see it. Let him get a look at all the hell he's so eager to bring to Earth. This is another reason why I'm leaning towards he made them Muslim terrorists, because pirates aren't really about bringing hell to Earth. They steal and kill to enrich themselves, not really out for world domination like Frank thought they were in Holy Terror. Admittedly, again, could just be Frank's flowery prose speaking, but still. The grenade explodes in his hands without any harm done save for popping the pirate's ears. Clark claims that the charge must have been faulty, but the captain of course doesn't buy it for a second. They steer the boat back home, and the next day, Clark is not heralded as a hero, but rather faces a debriefing from the higher-ups that washes him out because he failed to obey orders and has a history of disobedience. The Navy captain speaks up in his defense, saying he's a hero, but they won't have it. They at least grant him an honorable discharge, putting in the official record that he just couldn't cut it. I don't know how this normally works with the Navy, but apparently it takes him 2 weeks to finally leave. The other trainees saluting him on his way out. So, did he just spend those 2 weeks hanging around his bunk? Because I don't see the Navy going well, you're officially kicked out, but we're gonna keep training you until the bus comes. Learn how to operate a military radio in the meantime. He decides he needs to go see Lori one more time, but the Navy captain meets him on the way out. You practically ate that hand grenade back there, soldier, and that baby was no dud. That I seen, and plenty else. You got gifts. Gifts like nothing anybody's ever seen. Gifts. Talents. Hone those talents. Learn those skills. Clark went on to become a professional game streamer on Twitch. And don't go setting the world on fire. It's already on fire. It's your job to put the fires out. And that is a good distillation of Superman. He's a firefighter more than anything else, designed to end disaster before it gets worse and to help people when they need help. Why is he learning this from his Navy captain and not his parents? Whatever. So that's the end of the issue, right? I mean, that feels like a good stopping point as we move into the next part of his life where it's, his first year of being Superman, but nope! That's only the halfway point. Clark proceeds to jump the fence so he can go back to Lori for the second half of this issue. He's got a fish to bone, dang it.
The Wonder Boner.
I walked right into that one. He hears the mermaids singing and swims out to them, quickly finding Lori and... Wait, I just realized, whatever happened to the crew of that experimental sub that crashed? Were they all dead already? Anyway, Lori says she wants Clark to meet her dad. A little fast, isn't it? Does helping the disaster at Atlantis even count as a first date? Oh, the hell am I kidding? She was already talking about marrying him. It truly is a Silver Age style story. Lori Lamaris and characters talking about getting married as soon as they meet. After they frolic, which may just be coding for sex, who the hell knows at this point, Clark is told to come and meet her father and to wear his best suit. And it is here where we first see Clark as Superman. Not saving people, not first revealed to Lois Lane, not in some grand act to highlight what kind of a good, heroic person he is, but rather on his way to meet literally Poseidon to ask for permission to bang his mermaid daughter. It is amazing. It is the exact halfway point of this series where it drops in quality. The first half had its problems and issues certainly, but was overall a pretty decent Superman tale. And now we're just sinking to the bottom of the ocean, both literally and figuratively. And quite frankly, this Superman logo sucks. The red and black is harkening back to the Golden Age, but the S isn't properly stylized and it's more a rounded triangle for the shield instead of the hexagon. It feels more like a lazy parody than anything else. Also, I guess Clark is a balloon that inflates and deflates various parts of him, because now his head is tiny while he's lanky in the legs, okay in the torso, and muscular long arms. Anyway, now begins the unnecessary and lengthy proceeding in order to date Lori Lamaris. Superman arrives at the gates of Atlantis, which is guarded by this big statue thing that attacks him without a single word. It's filled with purple prose about the beauty of Atlantis, the dramatic aspects of this battle, Superman properly discovering his heat vision, and it's really frustrating for me because I know where this story is going. Also, more new psychic powers for Superman. So he focuses his mind and gives a gentle psychic push, and the sentry pivots and opens wide the gate and beckons its new master in. Superman has more psychic powers than Mewtwo. Superman goes into the city and the throne room of Poseidon, and how the sea maidens chitter and chat, their voices like chimes. It's music, all music, it's all music. I'd like to be under the sea, in an octopus's garden, in the shade. Superman kneels before Poseidon.
He shows you respect, Father.
He respects nothing. He squats like a frog. So what, was he supposed to curtsy then? Poseidon says they'll put him to the test and... Wait, why does Poseidon have a standard merman tail but nobody else does? Hell, he looks the most like a traditional mer person of anybody here. Anyway, he says they'll test Superman and assumes he'll fail. Wait, I thought everybody here spoke telepathically, but they're talking underwater without any issue, but then Superman and Poseidon speak telepathically to each other, kind of taunting one another, and I just... Ugh, this is dumb. Superman heads out to wait for the trial, and once more, Frank's worst tendencies as a writer start to get the better of him. He will oftentimes inject outdated language and words into characters. Again, we saw this in All-Star Batman and Robin. Here, Supes calls Poseidon a prig, and then, nah, he's just a little too arch about her. Like, am I the old man here? Am I the one who doesn't realize how many people these days use arch in its adjective form?
And I'm definitely not old now. I've decided I'm 25 again.
Oh my God.
Sliding timescale and all that.
You've been doing your show for decades.
And what an impressive baby I was reviewing stuff on the internet.
Superman thinks Poseidon believes he's after his throne, an idea he laughs about. Wouldn't that be a hoot? I can just see it. Clark Kent, King of the Seven Seas. That's got one heck of a ring to it. Yeah, wouldn't that be stupid and ridiculous? Wouldn't that be stupid and ridiculous? But no, as he points out, he doesn't want to be the king of anything. He just wants his chance to be with the girl he loves. The girl he's known for, like, a few hours now. Compared to Lana, who he knew for years. Remember Lana, Clark? No? Of course not. It's fascinating how Frank could honestly understand Superman so well, and yet the story he's telling is one of the dumbest, most pointless things featuring him. The Navy stuff is kind of interesting, but not necessary. He didn't need to learn these lessons this way. Meeting and romancing Lori Lamaris is not terrible, but he's devoting a massive chunk of time in a short miniseries to it while forgetting what happened before. The character of Superman is realized in how good and wholesome and decent a guy he is, But instead of fighting supervillains or corruption, he's spending his time trying to convince Poseidon why he should get to bang his daughter. Anyway, some of Poseidon's forces attack Superman, and it's several pages of them trying to mock him and then unleashing sea monsters against him that Clark easily shakes off. It has puny little legs and puny little paws. Well, that part's true at least. They throw everything they can at him. The aforementioned sea monsters, energy lances, and he just stands there and stares back up at them unimpressed. Which they report back to Poseidon. The dude, still pissed, decides it's time to quite literally unleash the Kraken. The narration once again gets weird. It refers to the Kraken as a naughty child that likes to break its toys. Then the caption boxes go red like Poseidon's telepathy was, and indeed acts like a child as it attacks Superman and is mad that he won't break. It eats him, feeling sick at doing so, and returns to Poseidon. Laurie is horrified by the potential loss of Clark. You shall have no man but Poseidon for all the days of your life. You will reign by my side. You will take your mother's place in every respect. Well, thanks for the incest king there, Frank! Ew, what the hell? Yeah, I know. Greek gods could be gross like that, but then is this even supposed to be the same Poseidon as the god? They don't explain anything about him other than he's an asshole and he's the king of Atlantis. But of course, Superman is fine. The brazen challenger blasts from the belly of the beast, projectile vomited to freedom. Really know how to paint a picture, Frank. Laurie tells Soups that Poseidon has gone crazy as he continues to refuse to accept the courtship. And it turns out the Kraken that was sent after him was a baby one, as Poseidon summons the mother Kraken to pile drive a massive column right on top of Soups. And of course, it barely fazed him. The citizens of Atlantis, having seen all this, accept Superman as their new king and that Poseidon has been defeated. And despite supposedly having been driven mad, Poseidon accepts defeat and tells the Kraken not to bug Superman. He'll return and plan his revenge one day. He will reclaim his throne. He will reclaim his princess bride.
I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
And so part 2 ends with Superman saying he could stay and spend a lifetime here. And now you can forget that any of that happened because they never bring up Laurie or Poseidon or any of that in part 3. That entire second half of book 2 was completely pointless. We get one bit of acknowledging Atlantis, but nothing else. Not even that he was the king of it. The entire frickin' plot for 1/6 of this story was just a goddamn fanfic that Frank Miller wrote where Superman gets married to Laurie Lamaris because they didn't end up together in the original comics. Like I said earlier, every part of this story feels completely removed from the others, with only the tiniest of continuity between them. Stuff is set up and never paid off. Plot points are raised and then never resolved. And unfortunately, the third part, where we actually have Superman in his familiar trappings, where this should be Superman Year 1, is the worst issue of the bunch. And it doesn't start off bad in the cover. Not the greatest, but the classic image of Superman holding up the Daily Planet globe. Admittedly, a little weird because he looks grumpy while doing it, but it's evocative of my favorite Secret Wars cover, and that gets it a lot of points. We open with Lois Lane inside some kind of mini-sub exploring around the ocean before an Atlantean torpedo strikes the area near her. Targeting systems lock. Torpedo strike. Volcanic gas explodes. Planet Earth farts. Stay classy, Frank. I love that contrast. Frank spends so much time with these overly descriptive, artsy descriptions of things that we can see with our own damn eyes, and then he just throws in a line like that as if he was 12, or telling us that he's basically just trolling us with this nonsense. Another explosion! The ocean's demons laugh. A child smacks his bathtub toy. And then the little beast throws his toys away.
Spock, comment. Very bad poetry, Captain.
This is also the worst issue because Frank's most annoying writing tick returns in full. Repetition like he was Jimmy two times. And she's swallowed. She's just plain swallowed. She's swallowed and squeezed. There's no air in her lungs. No air at all. She's gonna die. She's gonna die. But wait, some of you who have somehow lasted this long into the review are saying, it's a panicky situation. The narration just reflects that. Yeah, well, say that to all the other times it happens, particularly in dialogue where people aren't panicking. Atlantis wants to finish the job, but Superman suddenly arrives to rescue her. As I said, no mention of him being their king or him telling them not to do this, his marriage to Lori, etc., etc. No, Atlantis is not a part of the story anymore. Forget about that. Forget about how much goddamn time we spent having Superman get to the point, and even the reveal of the Superman suit there. Not important. Move on. Or should I say, move on. Ignore it. It should be ignored. You need to ignore it because the writing is just repeating everything. She's as good as dead. She's as good as dead. She's as good as dead. This story is as good as dead. Good as dead. He gets her to a beach and performs CPR, saving her. You're going to be fine. You're safe with me. You're safe with me. It sounds so simple when he says it. So simple. And so utterly true, like she'd always be safe in his arms. Right, provided this space cadet doesn't get distracted by a butterfly or something and drop her. She should be concerned about that. He might spot some butterfly woman that he decides to go romance and then forget about later. He drops her off in a palm tree and then returns to the beach because he could hear some soldiers in some bushes, who I guess were just sitting in there this whole time for no reason. Superman calls out to them, saying they should emerge, and instead of trying to talk to him or anything, they just immediately attack him while repeating themselves. Also, I guess he changed his costume during that time in Atlantis, because now there is a bit more stylization to his S that wasn't present in the original reveal. They're making it all look too easy. I trained with these guys. They don't make anything easy. Now, you may think this is referencing his Navy SEALs training, but that can't be the case, because he said everything he had to do was so easy for him. So why would he say they don't make anything easy? And these guys are Navy SEALs? Why are they here? Why do they have all this equipment designed to try to take down Superman? Yeah, they launch powerful electrical tasers, some gas grenades, and again, repeating their dialogue for no reason. We got us plenty of time, pretty boy. Plenty of time. Something to settle his nerves. Settle his nerves, but good. His eyes are glowing. I hear that really bad things start happening when his eyes start glowing. Not that we see that at all, but they talk like they've seen him before. But if he is supposed to have been in Atlantis for a while, how would they know anything about him? More soldiers show up and finally talk to him directly, but only to threaten him and say he's trespassing in a maximum security area. Check it out, boys. Man of Steel here. She's got him a little whipped. Schoolyard baiting. Tough guy talk. Coward talk, I call it. Hiding what you're doing down there. You're chicken is what you are. You're chicken, and I'm calling you out on it. Okay, I've said in the past that one big problem with Frank Miller is that he started writing Sin City and then never stopped. And I think that's pretty evident here, because reading that dialogue from Superman, do it in a stereotypical 30s gangster voice, and it fits perfectly. Frank just likes writing stuff in a noirish setting, even when it doesn't match. Another weapon hits him and does nothing. He breaks it apart and sends shrapnel into them, apparently precise enough to not kill them, then proceeds to knock down some trying to sneak up behind him. He goes back to Lois, who's in shock at the moment. The water combined with the colder temperatures here are affecting her. Got to move quickly! But take a second. Just a second. Get a look at her papers. Oh my god, she's dying! I better rifle through her purse! Find out who this angel is. I think Frank has moved on from wanting to have sex with buildings to wanting to have sex with angels, because he's using that descriptor for every woman Superman falls for. He wraps her up in his cape and flies her to someplace warmer off panel. From there, it's time to speed through all the other stuff he needs to do since they wasted so much time with the Atlantis crap. Without mentioning his parents and their desire for him to go to college, he enrolls at Kansas State University pursuing a journalism degree. He does pretty well, and the dean or teacher or whoever is a friend of Perry White, so sets him up with a job at the Daily Planet. By the way, that's 2 to 4 years of schooling done with in a flashback, depending on what kind of journalism degree he sought. He looks around, but nobody's asking for help. Not in Metropolis. Everybody knows exactly where they're going, exactly why they're here. Nobody's talking too much. Nobody's wasting time. Not in Metropolis. Have we had it wrong all this time and the repeating is just him writing lyrics for a musical? Nobody's wasting time. Not in Metropolis. The fashions here. The styles. It's like another planet. Oh my god, it's a hoodie and a hat. What new spore of madness is this? Fashions, styles from all around the world. A million disguises to be had. One's bound to stick. Only bad guys wear masks. Clark Kent helped keep the pandemic going. Why shouldn't Clark Kent be the mask?
Because you are Clark Kent.
Clark saves a little kid who ran in front of a car, allowing for shocked onlookers to repeat phrases over and over.
Out of nowhere, like lightning, do it again,
etc., etc. I know I keep repeating that criticism, but that's only because I'm trying to be like Frank Miller, clearly the best writer for this. Clark meets with Perry White, although meet is the wrong word. Perry just says, "You want a job? Prove I can't live without you." Clark interprets that to mean he's hired. I would not have taken it like that, but whatever. He spots Lois and avoids her since he knows she'll recognize him as Superman. Need a disguise for Clark Kent. Clark Kent. He's the mask.
The hell it is!
Oh, sure. It's a valid interpretation of the character.
But not in this story!
Maybe if this was the first issue, without getting into a lot of details of his past, where we can interpret that he really does see himself as Superman first. But the other two issues throw that idea right out the window. He has lived his life as Clark, wanting to be humble and just help people, recognizing that his powers are a tool, not that he is the powers. Remember, he laughed off the idea of Clark Kent, ruler of the seven seas. He just wanted to have a fish girlfriend. His humanity and Clark Kent are who he is. Superman is the mask in this story, the method that he's been trying to figure out to help people, because people are unimpressed by Clark Kent doing things, constantly bullying and badgering Clark Kent. Batman Begins is one of my favorite superhero movies because it simplifies the idea of why dress up in a costume and superhero garb at all, down to a very basic mantra. As a man, you can be ignored or destroyed, but make yourself a symbol, something larger and more impressive than a man, and you can be incorruptible, unstoppable, and inspiring. It doesn't matter how many times Clark Kent defeated those bullies in a fight. It didn't matter how impressive he was stopping the pirate and the grenade, or how easily he walked off all the training. Everyone else only saw Clark Kent, and they were not impressed by Clark Kent, despite having every reason to be impressed. Thus, he puts on the Superman suit, and suddenly he's something bigger and more powerful than any normal man. Clark Kent is not the mask in the story, unless we truly are supposed to ignore everything that happened before this point. But whatever, we get a brief show of him putting together a new look. The hat for an old-fashioned touch, the glasses to give him a bit of a geeky demeanor, and he dresses in basic clothing to be unimpressive and unassuming. This part would be perfectly fine if the reasoning of Clark Kent is the disguise hadn't been included. And it's especially baffling because up to this point, Frank seemed to have understood Superman's character perfectly. Were the first two issues ghost-written or just heavily edited, and by this issue they just threw up their hands and let him do whatever? As he decides on his first proper night out as Superman, he has to sort through all the noise and crowds to decide what crimes he needs to prioritize. Apparently Metropolis's crime rate is as bad as Gotham's given when he narrates about how many there are. Start where it starts. Crime starts on the streets. So what do crooks want? They want money. Where do they find it? Banks.
There is logic in what he says.
Never mind the third-rate muggers and street swindlers. Go for the banks. Rob all the banks so the criminals can't. Wait. After some more awkward repetition, he stops some bank robbers. It's unclear if they killed the guard or just knocked him out, by stealing them in an alley with stacked cars. I'd like to know where he got those, because there are only 2 robbers, so they clearly didn't take 4 cars out to the job. Next up is some drug dealers in an abandoned building. What the hell? Me the hell. Okay, that was another good line. In there, wrapped up tight, Lieutenant. Right tight. In factory brand duct tape. Now that's an endorsement. Now that's a bad line. After that, he deals with an abusive husband and father. Across town. Utter madness. Oh yeah, because a lot of the other stuff that's happened so far has been perfectly sane and rational. An all too common sort of madness.
Is this the human condition of madness, leader? It is.
Reading that garbage again, are ya? You know I hate it when you read, woman! The dark sequel to Batman: A Word to the Wise that nobody was asking for. Superman intervenes before he can do any more harm. God, you bastard! Right in my own home! It'd be okay if you broke my wrist out on the streets, but here... Someone gets some footage of Superman on their phone and thus is reported in the news. This story's gonna knock your snot out, folks. A phrase nobody has ever said before, especially not on the news. This is gonna be like that naked news thing from years ago and be a totally real thing and the only thing you comment on for this video that's already well over an hour long, isn't it?
And it was.
The real world is stranger and stupider than fiction.
Speaking of fictions...
Ah, yes, my revisions to my story. Harvey Finevoice is now going to be a rap and R&B artist to properly...
Enough! What is wrong with you? You said earlier that details like when things came out is just trivia, but you've changed everything about your history so that it's almost unrecognizable. Are you even still calling yourself Linkara anymore?
Well,
What is the essence of your show? What is the thing you're preserving at this point?
making videos on the internet.
That's it? That's all you think your show is?
Pretty much. Nobody cares about comic books. Storylines take too long to produce for various reasons, and they're just derided as some goofy and outdated concept, even when my much more popular contemporaries were doing them in a different form. The only thing that actually matters about me is that I make content on the internet for hundreds and hundreds of episodes.
You really think your fan base will appreciate this?
Doesn't matter. I have to appear new and modern and appealing to a completely different demographic, because otherwise I'll just have a dwindling core audience that will just get older and die off, or older and just stop caring. You know, change or die.
But you end up alienating everyone because you've taken away everything that made you appealing in the first place. Streamlining is fine. Simplifying complex lore is fine. But there's a point where you become completely unrecognizable as the thing that you are.
Then how exactly am I supposed to get new viewers? Advertise in areas where they might see it? Make the core videos easier for anyone just to jump into for their first time? Offer them content in a place where they can find it at an affordable price? Don't involve myself in overly complicated collaborations with others unless, in turn, they make it easy to find those as well? Produce memorable, unique, enjoyable material that can be used as an example for people to show others and get them hooked and interested too? Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Also release more History of Power Rangers. Those are really popular too.
Even now in the future?
You mean the present?
Sure I do. Anyway, perhaps I should finish talking about my 700th episode.
Perhaps if you had a website or a playlist people could view it on.
I do! But I still want to talk about it.
While the Daily Planet is abuzz with talk about Superman, Lois notices the picture of Superman near Clark Kent and briefly wonders if they're the same person given their respective profiles, but shakes it off. Perry White says that there's a hostage situation at Luthor's Palace. Don't understand the change there, but whatever. Feels like I'm saying "but whatever" a lot, as if this comic keeps raising up weird things in it or something. Lois, Jimmy Olsen, and a reporter named Winters head off to go report on the story. So where's Kent anyway? Says he had to go to the bathroom, Miss Lane. Useless. Needing to pee? What a useless guy. Clark does not take kindly to that as he changes into Superman. Useless. She scarcely whispers the word, but it sticks in him like a hot poker. It always does, each and every time she says it. Useless. It's like he's nothing. It's like he's worthless. One of these days, he'll show her just how worthless he is. He'll show them all. Superman! Incredibly petty! Like, the one thing that got repeated in all three issues, even at the start of this one when he was going to college, was not to show off. But no! Now our Superman is all grumbly because he's like, jerks, I'll show them someday. He'll just up and throw Clark Kent clean away.
It's totally inapplicable to anything that's going on here. And it's dumb.
Also, I guess there's just a cat hanging out in the Daily Planet storage closet. Soups flies past the Daily Planet helicopter, nearly sending them into a building. You know, like an inconsiderate asshole. And perches like frickin' Batman in the rain near the tower so he can get a good look at it. Just look at that. Just look at them. Sometimes they seem so tiny, so puny, so temporary. They can't even fly. Not by themselves, they can't.
Fuck off.
Oh, the next narration says that for some reason he's thinking crazy and that these are his people in danger, but it's just, why include that at all if he wasn't being serious? I really do wonder if this was a case of an editor telling him no, or he just thought he was being funny or deep somehow, or some crap like that. Ugh. Anyway, the cops are ready to just swarm in and deal with the hostage takers, who are in turn ready to start killing people. They grab a kid, coincidentally the same one that Clark had rescued earlier, although here referred to as a baby who's still in a bottle, which just further confuses me how they could run into traffic if they're that young. Actually, wait, no, it isn't the same person. They just look really, really similar. Black mother with child, both children have J names, and both children are wearing purple. It's bizarre. But yeah, they hold the kid out a window and demand safe passage and $1 billion in diamonds or they'll kill her. Superman quickly rescues her. He snaps up this scared little Dorothy, like he was carrying her straight off to Oz. Unfortunately, he drops her off in Return to Oz and she's scarred for life. After dropping the guy off on a high tower in the rain, the baby vomits on him. Thanks for ruining the moment, Frank. Yeah, maybe it's just to show how Superman does not give a crap about that, but still. Oh, and he decides to wrap the baby up in his cape and leave her on a roof along with a cell phone calling the police to pick her up. Seems like he could have gone down to the ground and left her with someone there, but what the hell do I know? I'm not the guy who left a baby outside in a heavy rainstorm. Superman returns to the others. We are so dead. No, he's just a man. That's right. I am a man. Hey, little Poyo figurines. I'm gonna sell these at conventions. Just a man, yes. A man of steel! And of very compressed pectorals based on this image. He separates the terrorists from the hostages, and Lois Lane, watching all this from the nearby helicopter, decides to be an idiot. She swings down to get a closer look with a camera, repeating several of her lines because Frank is a very repetitive writer. Somehow this does not result in her getting shot at by the criminals, nor her slipping and falling. As the hostages make their escape, Lex Luthor finally makes his way up to meet Superman. Everything is in order. Everything is in order. Beautiful. Surely he will understand. Surely Superman will realize that truth and justice will only be found in a time of peace, a time of order. Surely he will realize that my narration captions are the best ones. Surely this godlike champion will smile into the bright light of reason and recognize his superior and kneel down before Luthor in grateful obedience. No, Lex, he won't. And the S doesn't stand for surely. Lex walks out, and Superman immediately yells at him. You're a damned liar! I'm not your lackey! I don't take any orders from you! Oh my god, is Superman genuinely telepathic in this comic? How did he know Lex was thinking that? I was exaggerating a bit during the Atlantis bits. You know, it's more probably that the fish people could read his thoughts and respond, not that he can actually read minds! Otherwise, it feels like we skipped over 2 pages at once, because this is the first time the two are meeting. My mind works a little faster than yours. You'll do what you're told. Yeah, but will it move faster than his fist to your face? But no, of course he doesn't attack him. Lex invites him inside and says the two share a common enemy, Batman. Despite Superman's misgivings about Lex not wanting to trust anything he says, he shows Superman police photos of what happens to people Batman has roughed up. And then we cut to Gotham, where a group of non-Muslim pirates is hijacking an arms shipment. And they're stopped by Batman, who is holding a gun on them. I'd remind you that this is all supposedly taking place in the same universe as The Dark Knight Returns, according to Frank. What did Batman say in that? Something about not using guns?
What happened to no guns?
This is a gun?
Like, maybe you could argue it's not loaded, he's just using it to scare them, but come on. Although, here's a more important question. What is Batman doing in this Superman comic? Couldn't go 5 goddamn minutes without putting Batman in? Hell, even if there was some deep story reason to have him here, it's the final third of the comic! There's less than 20 pages left! We didn't need to have Batman inclusion out of nowhere!
Keep moving, pirates, or you're all dead! I know you're the ones keeping DC Comics from arriving in Gotham City! Carol Fane warned me about you! How much is One Face paying you?
He leads them all onto a boat, I presume he shoved the unconscious ones there too, and has them head off to shore to be picked up by the feds.
It's all so wonderfully quiet, so perfectly Gotham! The constant bleating of my city, the car alarms crying, the police sirens rising, then falling off so far away, the lapping waves, the pirates' muffled curses, all of it music to my ears. Specifically, it's a Starland vocal band song. Weird.
He dives into the water to a little motorized engine to escape.
Slap this little darling together in my workshop. She converts sea water straight into electrical power, giving me an ocean of fuel. The concept could have applications. That's if I ever cared to share it. Bat tick!
Turns out he wasn't lying to the pirates about them being dead if they didn't move. He set explosives on the boat and destroys it. The next day, Lex Luthor arranges a massive press conference to announce that superheroes will now be licensed agents of the state, not costumed vigilantes. Which I guess explains whoever the hell these people are in the background that we don't see up close. Superman is annoyed because he was told this was going to be a private conversation, not a photo op. One that Lex decided to put a big screen up showing the Daily Planet's report of the pirates' arms shipment destruction for some reason. Lois asks if this means that Superman will be going after Batman, and Lex keeps interrupting Superman before he can answer, saying that he most definitely will.
They cheer. This is only getting worse.
I suppose I could very loudly and noticeably take the microphone from him and admonish him over this, but I'm not going to because I'm suddenly an idiot. And then we cut to an abandoned subway train in Gotham where inexplicably Lex Luthor is meeting with the frickin' Joker. Again! We're almost at the end! Why are we bringing the Joker in now? Lex says they need to have some big distraction to keep the heroes busy while they work on other things, and Joker just says they should make a new drug for the streets. Simple as that! Lex's super smart brain could never think of that.
I'll get my pharma team to work.
I'll find you.
You leave me all moist. You really do.
You just leave me confused. The Joker decides to just wait around and use his phone.
Alone with his thoughts. His thoughts. The thoughts he has. That's a little too disturbing. Even for him.
I think now is the right time for a Scrubs reunion movie.
But that's okay. That's what phones are for. So you don't have to ever be alone with your thoughts.
Is Frank Miller having an old man yells at clouds moment with that? Point is, Batman shows up and interrogates him, some of the dialogue referencing bits of The Dark Knight Returns for no good reason.
Not one bone is broken. Not one. Honest.
And then the Dark Knight strikes again when Batman blows up a drug farm at an abandoned warehouse.
Striking terror. Best part of the job. Well, that and making out with random women who show up on motorcycles, that's pretty cool.
Lex, upon learning what has occurred, punches the guy who informed him of this, even though that is grossly out of character. Yell at them maybe, but why the hell would he attack the guy who informed him of it? He decides he needs to force Superman and Batman into a direct fight.
Lure their competitive visions of justice into blessed conflict, and reap the whirlwind. They'll destroy each other. Genius. It's too small a word.
All I have to do is use an African warlord to lure Superman out to the desert, have mercenaries kill the warlord's forces and frame Superman for it, have Superman grow paranoid at Batman's activities, have Congress investigate it, then blow up Congress when Superman goes in to answer for it, make Batman be paranoid about Superman's powers, and have him steal a hunk of kryptonite, and kidnap Superman's mom and threaten to kill her if he doesn't go and kill Batman. And then make Doomsday as a backup plan or something.
Genius is too small a word.
Luthor threatens Perry White at the Daily Planet to get Superman to do something about Batman. somehow. There's reference to Lex planning on buying the paper, but it's just weird. And Soups overhears this and decides to go to Gotham and confront Batman. The two meet on the rooftop with the bat signal, both sizing each other up and leaning to, oh god, what the hell is this splash page? The two look like slightly more stylized Lego men. Their fronts are completely flat. You could stack them on top of each other like Tetris blocks. It's not helped by the weird geometric patterns on the roof that they drew for some reason. Makes everything that much more angular. Batman says this was a trap. How? How would he even know any of this was going to happen? Especially with Lex going to the Daily Planet to try to get all this set up. Locking Superman's feet to manacles that just happen to be right where he's standing. And then Batman pulls out guns and indeed tries to shoot Superman dead.
I'll just go right ahead and soften you up. That's soften you up, as in for the kill.
I know I should be expressing pure outrage over this, but I'm pretty sure this is Crazy Steve doing this. And frankly, after how long this episode has been going for, I just don't care anymore. Why is the S-shield so tiny in this panel? Can't seem to stay on model. After he fails to do anything with a supercharged taser, Batman continues his childish ranting.
Well, pardon me all over the place. It only makes you stronger. It sure as hell doesn't make you any smarter. And smarts count, Space Cadet.
Indeed. It's a pity you're an idiot. And yeah, for all that smarts counts talk, he just resorts to punching Superman. Unsuccessfully, of course, even with supercharged gauntlets. This is like the exact opposite of the fight between them in The Dark Knight Returns. Batman was still just as whiny there, yet he felt in control of the situation, and clearly his plans paid off. Whereas here it's just, ha ha ha, I am so smart, I'm gonna punch you now, I am bat smart! This actually reminds me of the Spider-Man versus Superman fight. In that fight was really good, and this is just really sad. After some more punching, Superman finally grabs Batman and threatens to punch him back, but then a hand comes from nowhere and takes his. No! No more. You're both making fools of yourselves. Oh hey, I'm in the comic. No, it's Wonder Woman. Oh my god! What is wrong with her body proportions? What's going on with her neck? Why are her legs in that pose compared to her torso? Why are her arms so long? What is she even doing here? This is the first time we've seen her!
It just raises too many questions.
But this ends now. This is our moment. No more squabbles. No more fights. We join forces.
Good point. Also, who are you?
From this very moment to the exact instant that each one of us dies, we serve one purpose, one idea, one cause, justice. And together we can be justice.
Oh my god, with the crappy writing, I can totally believe she actually would say that in this. And with those words, an era begins. An era of continuity mistakes if this really takes place in the same universe as Aspar, because Wonder Woman was the one who wanted to murder Batman in that. The three go to confront Lex Luthor, who's not surprised to see them. His narration, of course, implying that he wants to do bad things to Wonder Woman, because why not add some more grossness to this garbage?
Your eyes show your thoughts. Maybe I'll just kill you right now.
Now you're talking, princess! This'd all be a lot more simple if we'd stop playing it so damn polite.
Our heroes, everybody!
Indeed, she wraps him up in the lasso of truth and he confesses to all his various crimes. However, he also admits that he knows of the threat of Brainiac, who has the bottle city of Kandor in his possession. Superman says he needs to go and rescue them. Wendy offers to come with and help, but Superman tells her it'll be fine. And like every female character, she wants to bang him.
Kiss me. Give me something to remember.
And in a legit funny moment, he kisses her forehead innocently.
You boy, you sweet little Adonis. Go become a man. Then you come back for me.
Sorry, Wendy, but given the track record of every other love interest in this book, Soups flies off into space to go find Brainiac. Yeah, I just realized he doesn't actually know where he is. And so our comic ends with narration. He leaves planet Earth and all it holds. His accidental home. Not really accidental in this because it was chosen for him by Jor-El. His chosen people, his sacred trust, and still he climbs, and still he climbs. And then he remembers that he can't actually breathe in space even if he can breathe underwater. Whoops. His tribe cries out to him.
The genocidal brainiac lies in wait. Comes his destiny. And without pause, without fear, he flies straight and swift and sure to meet that destiny. Unfortunately, Destiny had to cancel their reservation due to a family emergency. This sole survivor, this orphan, this wild child, this angry adolescent.
He's in his 20s. Shut up.
This intrepid reporter, this streaking savior. I know he just means the color streak behind him, but in a Frank Miller comic, that could also mean him naked. This space-spanning seeker of truth, this man, this Superman. The never-ending battle begins!
And ends, because that's the end of the comic. That's it! He goes off to fight Brainiac, and nothing! The story just stops. I don't know if the plan was to have more issues and for some reason they needed to cut it short, but the story just ends there. Hell, it's barely a story! It's like a few barely connected instances of Clark Kent's early life.
We hope you've enjoyed No Moral Theater, ladies and gentlemen.
The book was initially announced as having 4 issues in it, but they've said this is the end. This isn't like Aspar, where they said they were making more and then just never did. I get the distinct impression this was gonna be 4, and the final issue would have had him take on Brainiac after pretending like he never met Batman and Wonder Woman and all that. Maybe have him re-explore his Kryptonian heritage via the Bottle City of Kandor. Maybe fall in love with some random Silver Age Kryptonian woman who shows up in this for no reason, but nope, nothing more. And as you might imagine from how much time I've wasted talking about it, this comic sucks! What a colossal waste of time this whole exercise was. Even if you were to forgive how much of the narrative meanders about with random love interests, disconnected events that have no relevance to one another, and an ending that teases more, but of course no more will come, not that you'd want more anyway, the title is pretty much a lie. Most of the story is before he even becomes Superman, and this covers maybe his first month actively being the hero we know and love. It starts off with so much promise, getting so much right about the character, even if there are some head-tilting moments and awkward dialogue, but then slowly as it keeps going, it just descends further and further into mediocrity and the same tired garbage you've come to expect from Frank Miller. Superman Year 1 can be seen as an analogy for his career, starting strong if having some iffy bits, but then falling hard into self-parody and disgusting excess as it goes on. The artwork ranges from competent to bizarre, proportions all over the place, and sometimes what's written doesn't match with what we're seeing in the art. The final issue is amazing in its awfulness, caring more about just showing Superman being cool and super strong than any of the qualities we enjoy about him. He has the humanity that he should, but far too often he just starts letting intrusive thoughts about his own superiority get in the way. And then Batman and Wonder Woman show up out of nowhere to accomplish nothing, neither enhancing Superman's story nor bringing any relevant or satisfying conclusions. There is no payoff to anything set up in the first 2 issues. No morals or insightful things to say about Superman or his character.
Just a bunch of stuff that happened.
If this was the story that Frank Miller always wanted to tell, then I dread any other stories he decides to make on a whim. Next time, we begin a string of Patreon-sponsored episodes. Some interesting, some bad, but all of them will be more worthwhile than this. And to start things off, appropriate after 700 episodes, it's a follow-up to another old episode as we look at Ken Penders' The Lost Ones.
And then I reviewed The Lost Ones.
You're not going to recount that one to me, are you?
Nah, it's getting late, and I think we can call it quits whenever you're ready.
I know you may be disappointed by not going back and changing all of your history, but the truth is, you've produced a lot of Atop the Fourth Wall, Linkara, and it's all worthwhile.
Are you sure? Because a lot of the early stuff is hard to watch nowadays.
I'm sure. Your history is worthwhile, and it's one that should be celebrated, just like Superman's.
Although preferably with less mermaids.
I kind of like that.
Linkara, we're ready to head out to explore the Moloch ruins.
Hey, come on up here, Poyo.
Hello, Poyo.
Miss Jansen.
See now, Poyo hasn't changed at all. Same body that he's always been in.
No, it isn't.
He built this body for me shortly after the 700th episode. Actually, I quite rather like it, even if it is smaller.
Still no arms.
True. But I do have these talons, so I can grab things.
And with that, I bid you farewell, Myra.
Best of luck in the next 700 episodes and beyond. Well, enough of that. Let's interview the real star next, Dominic Noble, coming to us live from his own studio.
Hello, beautiful watchers of Stars of Yesteryear.
So, Dominic, I couldn't help but notice you look the exact same as you did back in the 2020s.
Yes, it turns out the secret to immortality is reading a lot of E.L. James books.
Well, then it hardly seems worth it.
It's not, no. It's not at all.
Then you go. You're gonna make it difficult for me here, Jerry. Yeah. I'm trying to hold the script to read it off, but Jerry here is just like, no, I want pets. I want to be held. So I'm holding her in my arm while I'm trying to do this.
Okay. Hey, ma'am, I thought I told you to stop letting flesh tubers in here. You know we're not zoned to have, like, 3D dimensional beings in here, you know? 3D is it 3-dimensional or 3D dimensional? Either way, it's an abomination. It really is, and there will be a purge. Yep. Baka abomination. Okay.
Everyone's life is a story. No, everyone's story is a fiction. No, we're going to start that one completely over.
Okay, so looking at him like this, not looking at him like this because hair.
Yeah.
Looking at the Diet Coke.
Because that's really the embodiment of me. It's the flavor. Don't you get it? It's the flavor. The rest is just trivia.